What if everything you believed about the royal children was a lie? Not just a small lie to protect privacy, not just a slip of protocol or a media oversight, but a massive, orchestrated secret, a royal cover-up stretching across countries, locked safes, anonymous voices, sealed documents, and silenced insiders. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. What if Prince Harry just opened the door to that secret? And what if that door leads to the most shocking truth the British monarchy has tried to hide? Not just about Meghan Markle, but about Archie and Lilibet's very existence. Because that's exactly what's happening now. And you're about to hear the story no one in the palace wanted you to know. It began quietly. No grand statement. No media conference. Just a whisper. A leak. A flicker of something off. Too off to ignore. A royal aide noticed it first. The safe. A small, black, steel box in the corner of Harry and Meghan's Montecito home office. Always locked. Always guarded. Harry was protective of it, almost obsessively so. Staff members were instructed never to touch it, never to clean near it, never to ask questions. But it wasn't until Harry had an unexpected emotional breakdown during a private call with his father that the box would become the center of a storm so explosive it would threaten to crack the crown from the inside out. Harry was alone in the house that day. Meghan was allegedly out, visiting a wellness retreat. The kids were said to be with a nanny, though questions about their whereabouts have lingered for months. Harry had been pacing the room for over an hour before he finally made the call. He rang King Charles. Not the palace switchboard. Not his father's private assistant. Not even Camilla. He dialed the king directly. What was said in that conversation has only been partially confirmed. But what we do know is this. At some point during the call, Harry's voice broke. He reportedly said, "I can't carry this anymore, Pa. I've done what I thought was right." But it was never real, not completely. Sources say Charles was stunned. Not angry. Not frustrated. Stunned. And what came next? Silence. Then a phrase that has since spread like wildfire across the UK tabloids, encrypted forums, and royal watcher communities. "There's a secret about Archie and Lilibet's birth we kept from the world." That single line, if true, changes everything. And the worst part? That was just the beginning. Because that line wasn't just a moment of weakness. It was a confession. A leak. A hint at something that had been meticulously hidden from the public since the day Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor was first introduced. Not at a hospital. Not on the steps of St. Mary's like every royal baby before him. But in a blurry, dimly lit corridor, flanked by Meghan, Harry, and mystery. You remember the photo. The white dress. The awkward lighting. The forced smiles. The child swaddled in blankets, but with no visible face. No proud royal doctors. No hospital staff beaming with pride. Just questions. But we didn't ask them then, did we? We wanted to believe. Believe in the fairy tale. In the rebranding of the monarchy. In the progressive biracial princess, the modern prince, and their beautiful children. We wanted it to be simple. But now we know better. Because the truth has a way of bleeding out, no matter how hard you bandage it up. In the weeks that followed Harry's emotional phone call, several events unfolded that tipped the press and the world off balance. A palace aide was dismissed without cause. No explanation. No farewell. Just gone. Meghan canceled a planned appearance at a women's leadership forum, citing unexpected personal matters. Tyler Perry's private jet, which had remained unused for months, suddenly logged a flight between Burbank, California, and an undisclosed destination in Nevada. And most telling of all, a legal firm connected to Meghan's financial trust suddenly filed a request to seal several public records tied to the birth registration of both children. Why now? What are they trying to hide? Because as journalists began digging deeper, one thing became frighteningly clear. The story we were told about Archie and Lilibet's births was, at best, fragmented, and at worst, fabricated. Let's rewind. In May 2019, Meghan gave birth to Archie. But unlike other royal births, Kate's with George, Charlotte, and Louis, there were no press waiting outside the hospital. No flashing cameras. No confirmation of medical personnel. Just a mysterious announcement that she'd gone into labor, followed hours later by another stating she had given birth earlier that morning. And the hospital? Portland Hospital, a private facility in London. But here's the kicker. Portland's head of communications later denied any VIP births had taken place that week. No admission logs, no medical statement, no photos of staff beaming with pride, as they did with other royal babies. Strange? Absolutely. Now, fast forward to Lilibet's birth. June 4th, 2021. Meghan and Harry claim their daughter was born at Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital in California. A simple Google search confirms the hospital exists. But investigative reporters found that no birth certificate was registered on the day Lilibet was born. None. Worse, hospital staff claimed they could not comment on any high-profile births, but no one remembered seeing the Duchess of Sussex. No extra security. No blackout protocols. Nothing. And still, we believe the narrative. But it's unraveling. Fast. And now we're hearing murmurs of something darker. Surrogacy. Secret clinics. Even the use of reborn dolls, hyper-realistic replicas of babies used to stage photos and videos. Too far-fetched? Maybe. But ask yourself, why would Meghan and Harry hide the truth about their children's births unless there was something they couldn't afford to reveal? What if the children were born through a surrogate? Not once, but twice. What if the timing of the births didn't align with the pregnancies shown in public? What if entire photo ops were staged, not to protect privacy, but to protect a lie? And what if that lie was about more than just childbirth? What if it was about the monarchy, the royal line of succession, legitimacy? It all comes back to that black safe. Because according to the dismissed aide, who spoke anonymously to a UK paper, the safe contained a flash drive, a sealed contract, 2 alternate birth certificates, and a photo of someone who wasn't Meghan Markle. The woman in the photo was described as tall, dark-haired, and visibly pregnant, but not Meghan. The aide claimed Harry would often sit in the room alone, staring at that photo for long periods of time. Some days, he would cry. Other days, he would call someone. Always on speaker, always with the door locked. That's not the behavior of a man who is at peace. That's the behavior of someone haunted. And now he's speaking. Maybe not in press conferences. Not yet. But his voice is slipping through. In leaks, in off-the-record moments, in anonymous messages whispered to friends and former allies. And they're all saying the same thing. Something is wrong. Something has always been wrong. But until now, no one had the courage to admit it. Why now? Why after all this time? Some say Harry is reaching his breaking point. That the guilt, the lies, the fractured relationships. It's all catching up. Others say Meghan is losing control of the narrative. That her grip on the public, the media, even Harry himself, is slipping. And still others believe this was the plan all along. That Harry planted the seeds of truth years ago, and now, finally, they're breaking through the soil. But whichever it is, the truth is here. And it's more shocking than anything we imagined. So what exactly is in that contract? Who is the woman in the photo? Why was Lilibet's birth hospital scrubbed from public records? What did Prince Charles say when he heard the truth? And why is Meghan suddenly silent? The answers? They're coming. But what comes next will challenge everything we thought we knew about the House of Windsor. And it all starts with a whisper. Because the secret? It's no longer safe. There's something about silence in a royal corridor that makes whispers louder. Windsor Castle. Thick stone walls, ancient echoes, and endless halls designed to conceal secrets couldn't stop the ripple of one voice on a quiet Sunday afternoon. The whisper was accidental. But what it unleashed? That would burn through the monarchy like wildfire. It started during a supposedly routine visit. Harry had flown in under the radar. No press. No fanfare. Just a late arrival under a gray sky, and a black Range Rover that pulled up behind the East Wing with no announcement. Unusual? Very. Because since Meghan and Harry's royal exit, every interaction with the crown had been orchestrated, if not strained. So why now? Why this unannounced visit? And more importantly, why alone? According to staff stationed in the Windsor kitchens, Harry's return had not been planned. Not officially, anyway. One footman said Harry looked tired, thinner, eyes sunken, like he hadn't slept in days. He wasn't wearing the usual crisp royal casual. No tailored coat, no manicured beard. He was in an old hoodie, a pair of wrinkled joggers, and sneakers covered in dust. He wasn't there to pose for photos. He was there with something to say, and he needed to say it, face to face. The only problem? Camilla was already in the room. That's when everything changed. The scene, as pieced together by insiders and whispers from within palace walls, unfolded like this. King Charles was seated near the fireplace in the drawing room. Camilla had just poured herself a glass of wine. Harry walked in unannounced. No knocking. Just walked in like a man who couldn't wait another second. "Pa, I need to talk to you." "Alone," he said. But Camilla didn't budge. She didn't even flinch. She just raised an eyebrow and said, "If this is another plea for forgiveness, perhaps your father should hear it in front of the only woman who's still defending him." Harry's jaw tightened. He looked to Charles, who gestured subtly for Camilla to stay. And then Harry said it. Low, controlled, measured. "There's a secret about Archie and Lilibet's birth we kept from the world." That was the moment Camilla dropped her wine glass. It shattered, not because she was startled, but because, according to one source, she already knew. Let that sink in. Camilla, the most vilified woman in modern royal history, didn't look shocked. She looked relieved, like the game was finally up. Charles, however, went pale. His lips parted, but no sound came out. He simply stared. And that's when a royal assistant, one of the newer hires, just weeks into the job, made the mistake of standing too close to the door. She heard it all, and she told one person, who told another. And by the end of the day, the whisper had traveled from Windsor Castle to the edge of Buckingham Palace. It wasn't just a whisper anymore. It was a question. What secret about Archie and Lilibet's birth? Now pause for a second. Ask yourself something. What would be so serious, so utterly explosive, that Harry would fly across the Atlantic without warning, walk into Windsor looking like he hadn't eaten in days, and drop that sentence in front of both his father and stepmother? This wasn't about privacy anymore. This was about guilt. Real guilt. But guilt about what? That's the part no one could figure out. Not yet. Because in the hours after Harry left Windsor, something strange happened. Every member of staff who had been on duty that day was asked to sign a reaffirmation of their confidentiality agreements. No explanation. No briefing. Just signatures. One staff member reportedly asked, "What are we even signing for?" and was met with a stony-faced supervisor who replied, "It's for your own protection." Your own protection? Since when did discussing a family conversation become dangerous? Unless, of course, what was said had legal weight. Or worse, royal implications. Here's where it gets even more interesting. That same assistant who had overheard Harry's confession was seen leaving the palace grounds a few days later with a small duffel bag and tear-streaked eyes. She hasn't been seen since. And what's more, her social media accounts vanished overnight. Gone. Wiped clean. Now let's be honest, that could be coincidence. But in the royal world, coincidences don't happen without reason. Especially not after a prince says the words. There's a secret about Archie and Lilibet's birth we kept from the world. Let's stop right there and unpack this for a second. Harry didn't say, "There's something you don't know." He didn't say, "There's something we hid from you." He said, "We kept from the world." That's a deliberate phrasing, a premeditated deception, which means this wasn't just a family secret. This was a strategic cover-up, a high-level operation with multiple people in the know. And the world, us, the public. We were never supposed to find out. But here's the twist. According to royal insiders, that conversation at Windsor wasn't Harry's first attempt at revealing the truth. Not even close. In fact, one source claims Harry tried to open up to Charles 3 separate times in the past 2 years. Each time Meghan allegedly shut it down. How? By threatening to leak private recordings of senior royals making off-the-record comments about her children. That's right. Meghan, always one step ahead, reportedly used palace gossip as leverage. But what she didn't count on was Harry breaking. Emotionally, psychologically, and finally, publicly. And once the dam cracked, there was no stopping it. Within a week of the Windsor meeting, a flurry of unmarked packages began arriving at select media outlets. Inside each one, a copy of a hospital intake form, a partially blurred photograph, and a typed note. This is not the mother. Now we're entering dangerous territory, because the implication of that note, combined with Harry's confession, leads to only one conclusion. That Meghan Markle may not be the biological mother of at least one of her children. Let that sit with you. Is it true? We don't know, not yet. But that's not the point. The point is, why was someone willing to risk their job, maybe even their freedom, to make sure that note reached the press? And why now? Why is this information suddenly leaking after years of tight control? Because someone on the inside knows what's coming next. They're trying to get ahead of the storm. They know that if the palace is forced to release even a fraction of what Harry has admitted behind closed doors, the monarchy may never recover. Not from this. Not from the idea that the very lineage of the royal family could be built, at least in part, on fabrication. And it all started with a whisper. The kind of whisper that crawls under doors and seeps through cracks in stone walls. The kind of whisper that grows teeth the more it's ignored. And now it's not a whisper anymore. It's a roar. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming.